In early September 2025, as dawn broke over the jagged skyline of Colorado's Front Range, a lone figure moved through the mist. Kilian Jornet, the man whose name has become synonymous with mountains, was beginning something that even he wasn't sure was possible. A journey across America's highest peaks, connected not by roads or records, but by his own 2 feet and the simple motion of a bicycle. He called it states of elevation, 72 summits, each higher than 14,000 feet. The legendary 14ers of the continental United States. Over 31 days, Kilian would climb them all, linking them across 3 vast states: Colorado, California, and Washington. Without external transport, powered only by his own body, it was not a race, not a competition. It was a line drawn through wild places, a test of endurance, and a meditation on movement itself. For Kilian, the project began as a simple idea, a line on a map, a spark of curiosity. But as with many of his adventures, it grew into something far greater. A dialogue between man and mountain, solitude and suffering, humility and joy. The first summit came on September 3rd, Longs Peak, Colorado. Standing above the clouds, Kilian looked out toward the distant ridges, knowing that beyond each horizon waited dozens more. Colorado alone held 56 peaks above 14,000 feet. Linking them would demand not just speed, but relentless patience, an almost monastic discipline. Each day began before sunrise. Sometimes the only sound was the crunch of frozen scree under his shoes. Other times, storms rolled in with violent wind and lightning, forcing him to move fast, think faster, and trust instinct over comfort. He spent as much as 16 hours a day in motion. A rhythm of running, climbing, descending, refueling, and repeating. In the evenings when most people slept, he was still moving. Sometimes alone under a headlamp beam, sometimes with a friend or local runner who joined for a stretch of trail. What made states of elevation extraordinary wasn't just the physical achievement, it was the connection between the peaks. Between Mount Elbert and Pikes Peak, the Elks Range and the Nolans 14 Traverse, he crossed entire regions under his own power. Many of these routes take days or weeks for a team to complete. Kilian flowed through them as if following a single breath that began in Colorado and refused to end. When he finally crested his 56th Colorado summit, the transition began, not an end, but a change of terrain. He switched running shoes for a bicycle, clipped into the pedals, and pointed west. Ahead lay more than 1,400 kilometers of asphalt and gravel, the long road to California. He pedaled through heat across high plains and deserts, carrying little more than essentials, food, tools, water, and the same quiet determination that has guided his entire career. For most of the world, cycling that far would be a challenge in itself. For Kilian, it was simply the bridge to the next mountain range. California greeted him with new challenges. Thin air giving way to dry desert, granite walls, and snow-covered ridges. The White Mountains rose out of the arid earth like an ancient spine, their peaks harsh and wind-scoured. Farther west, the Sierra Nevada offered technical traverses that tested both endurance and mountaineering skill. Among them was the Norman Traverse, 13 peaks along a rugged knife-edge skyline. Even after more than 3 weeks of continuous movement, Kilian moved quickly through the range, completing the traverse in record time, an FKT pending confirmation. But in truth, records weren't what he sought. What mattered was the movement itself, the rhythm of ascent and descent, the moments of stillness between storms, the reminder that even after decades in the mountains, the unknown still called to him. As the journey moved northward, fatigue became another landscape to navigate. He had spent over 20 days in continuous motion, his body living in a perpetual cycle of effort and recovery. The simplicity of his existence, eat, climb, descend, sleep, became its own kind of meditation. Then came Washington, and with it the final challenge, Mount Rainier. By the time Kilian reached the Pacific Northwest, the weather had turned unpredictable. Fresh snow had fallen on the upper slopes, transforming Rainier into a technical ascent far beyond the comfort of summer trails. It was a fitting finale, a mountain that demanded respect and precision. In the early light of October, he began the climb, alone again. Step by step, across glaciers fractured by crevasses, he moved upward into the thin air. At more than 4,300 meters, every breath carried the weight of 31 days of exhaustion, solitude, and awe. Hours later, as clouds broke over the summit, Kilian stood atop Rainier. The line was complete. 72 summits, 31 days, more than 5,000 kilometers covered, 4,000 by bike, 1,000 on foot, a total of 123,000 meters of elevation gain, the equivalent of climbing Mount Everest from sea level more than 13 times. And yet, standing on that final peak, what mattered most wasn't the number. It was the stillness. The feeling that after thousands of hours of movement, there was nothing left to chase. Only gratitude. Back at camp, as the team celebrated with pizza, Kilian laughed quietly, reflecting on what he had just done. "I'm very happy," he said. "When I started, it was just an idea on a map. I didn't know if it would even be possible. But now I see it was, and it's been a true adventure." He spoke of the people he met along the way, the friends who joined him for a climb or shared a stretch of road, the wildlife encounters, the shifting landscapes that revealed how diverse and wild the American West remains. "It surprised me," he said, "how quickly the world changes out there. From deserts to forests, from snow to sun, and how moving only by your own power lets you feel that change in every muscle, every breath. The scale of states of elevation is difficult to comprehend. There were no checkpoints, no finish lines, no crowds. Only the constant dialogue between body and terrain. To link all 72 summits, Kilian climbed the equivalent of several Tour de France and dozens of marathons. But at altitude where oxygen is scarce and every movement burns deeper. Statistically, the numbers are staggering. 5,145 kilometers covered. 4,133 of those by bike, 80%. 1,011 on foot, 20%. A total of 488 hours of movement, averaging 15 hours per day. But beyond the numbers was something more profound: the rediscovery of connection. Throughout the project, Kilian's foundation, the Kilian Jornet Foundation, extended the journey beyond the mountains. They hosted community events called Running Minds, organized trail restoration projects, and invited others to reflect on the bond between endurance and environment. More than 500 people joined across several states: athletes, activists, and local volunteers, cleaning trails, planting, restoring, and writing messages to lawmakers to protect public lands. In that sense, States of Elevation became more than a personal expedition. It became a collective movement, a reminder that exploration isn't about conquering nature, but belonging to it. Every climb, every descent, every long stretch of road was a way to listen, to understand that humanity and wilderness are not opposites but reflections of each other. By the time Kilian finished, the numbers no longer mattered. What remained was the echo of footsteps through forests and rock, the hum of tires on lonely roads, the rhythm of a man moving through space with pure intention. From Colorado's granite ridges to California's Sierra Peaks and Washington's glaciers, States of Elevation revealed something simple yet profound: that exploration today isn't about going farther than anyone else. It's about going deeper into what it means to move, to feel small, and to find freedom in effort. And perhaps that's why Kilian Jornet continues to inspire. Not because of the summits he reaches, but because of the way he approaches them. Quietly, humbly, guided by curiosity more than glory. When asked what's next, he doesn't talk about goals or records. He talks about learning, about moving through landscapes with respect. about listening to the mountain before stepping onto it. For a month, states of elevation turned the vast American wilderness into a single continuous trail. One that began as an idea and ended as a story of endurance, solitude, and connection. A story that reminds us that even in a world of technology and convenience, the truest adventure still begins the same way, with one step and the courage to keep moving forward.